Title: The Thin Blue Line of Deception, Part 1. The highway stretched out like an endless ribbon beneath the warm southern sun. ATF Agent Marcus Hayes, a tall, imposing black man, was driving through the backroads, eager to reach his daughter's school recital. The hum of his car's engine provided a sense of calm after months of intense work. But that calm shattered in an instant. Flashing lights appeared in his rearview mirror. Marcus sighed and pulled over, glancing at the cruiser closing in behind him. His experience had taught him that even the most routine stops could take a dangerous turn. But he was law enforcement. He knew the rules. Out of the cruiser swaggered Officer Brent, a man whose southern drawl dripped with malice. He wore a smirk, his hand resting just a little too casually on his holstered weapon. Marcus rolled down his window, knowing the routine all too well. "License and registration," Brent barked, his eyes never leaving Marcus's face. "Officer," Marcus said calmly, pulling out his badge. "I'm ATF, just passing through on my way to see my daughter." Brent's expression didn't change. His eyes flicked over the badge for a second before his lip curled. "I don't care if you're the president," he spat. "Step out of the car." Marcus felt a chill run down his spine, but he kept his composure. "I'm not armed," he said, hands raised in a gesture of peace as he exited the car. Brent didn't care. He twisted Marcus's arm roughly behind his back, slamming him against the hood. "You're under arrest," he sneered, slapping the cuffs on. "Resisting an officer, driving erratically, and probably a lot more when I check you out." Marcus tried to reason with him. "You're making a mistake. Call my supervisor." Brent's hand tightened on Marcus's shoulder, cutting him off. "You think your badge means something around here? You think it protects you?" Instead of taking Marcus to the main precinct, Brent drove him to a small, rundown substation on the outskirts of town. It was a place Marcus had never seen in his years of working law enforcement, an off-the-books location, dirty and reeking of corruption. Inside, the station was dimly lit, worn down like it had been forgotten by time. The officers at the front desk barely looked up when Brent dragged Marcus in. It was routine for them. Marcus's anxiety grew with every passing second. Something about this felt deeply wrong, and Brent's smug grin only deepened that feeling. "Take care of him," Brent ordered, handing Marcus over to a young cop named Shawno, who seemed different from the others. Shawno was barely out of the academy, his uniform crisp and his eyes uncertain. He watched Brent walk away and nervously glanced at Marcus before leading him to a small holding room. Once alone, Shawno, his voice low, whispered, "I checked the system. You're legit, an ATF agent. What the hell is Brent doing?" Marcus, tense but holding on to hope, leaned closer. "Help me get out of here, and I'll explain everything later. But if we stay, I'm not sure I'll make it out." Shawno's eyes darted to the door. Brent had stepped out, but he could be back any second. The weight of the situation crashed down on the young officer. He knew what Brent was capable of, and it terrified him. But deep down, he couldn't let this injustice slide. "I'll get the keys," Shawno said, barely above a whisper. "Stay cool." Minutes passed, feeling like an eternity. Marcus could hear his heart pounding as footsteps echoed in the hall. Shawno returned, face pale but determined, holding a set of keys. "We're going out the back," Shawno said. "You're going to want to move fast." Marcus wasn't sure if he could trust Shawno, but the alternative, staying under Brent's watch, was worse. They slipped out a back exit into the night. Marcus took the lead, moving quickly but cautiously. They jumped into an empty squad car and sped off, Shawno's hand trembling on the wheel. "We need to find a safe place to make a call," Marcus said, scanning the streets for signs of trouble. Shawno nodded, eyes darting between the road and the rearview mirror, half expecting Brent's cruiser to appear any moment. "There's an internet cafe down the block. Some guys sell burner phones there. We can make the call without being traced." They pulled up to the small cafe. Marcus grabbed a burner phone and quickly dialed the ATF. A female voice, Agent Johnson, answered on the other end. "We've been looking for you. Hold tight. We'll track this phone and send backup. Stay off the grid until we arrive." Just as Marcus hung up, the cafe's windows lit up with red and blue lights. Brent had caught up. "Get down!" Shawno yelled, heart pounding in his chest. They bolted out the back door as Brent stormed in, gun drawn. The night descended into chaos. The chase led them through alleyways, down abandoned streets, until they found themselves at the edge of a desolate, crumbling apartment complex, the ruins of a forgotten era. They hid behind broken walls, catching their breath, but they knew Brent wasn't far behind. Shawno, shaking with nerves, tried to come up with a plan. "We have to hold him off until the feds get here," Marcus said, tightening his fists. He didn't want to fight, but he wasn't going down without one if it came to that. Brent stormed into the ruins, his footsteps echoing ominously. He was hunting them now. Shawno tried to reason with him, stepping out into the open. "Brent, you don't have to do this. He's with the ATF. We can fix this." Brent sneered. Without a word, he backhanded Shawno, sending him crashing into a wall. The young officer crumpled, dazed. That was when Marcus made his move. He lunged from behind a doorway, tackling Brent. The two men grappled, fists flying, as Brent's gun clattered to the floor. The fight was brutal, both men locked in a desperate struggle. Marcus finally gained the upper hand, slamming Brent against a broken beam. The man was a force of hatred and strength. Just when it seemed like the fight would never end, the distant sound of sirens cut through the night. Red and blue lights washed over the ruins as federal agents arrived. Brent, eyes wide with rage, broke free, launching himself through a shattered window and disappearing into the shadows. Marcus stood over Shawno, who groaned as he sat up, his face bruised but alive. "We're not done yet," Marcus muttered, staring out into the dark where Brent had fled. The hunt was far from over. To be continued.